A medical emergency arises. As an emergency responder, you know that if you assist, you can save or restore a patient's life. You can reduce a patient's recovery time. And you can make the difference between a temporary or lifelong disability. Even knowing this, sometimes people hesitate to help. Even people with CPR and first aid training. They may feel anxiety or guilt about the situation. Sometimes they're afraid they'll do the wrong thing. They fear imperfect performance or making a person worse. In some societies, people are afraid they'll get sued if the situation doesn't work out right, and there's the fear of communicable diseases. As an emergency responder, realize that none of these concerns need prevent you from helping in a medical emergency. Let's look at why. First, let's look at the fear of infection. You may hesitate because you are afraid of being infected by the person you are assisting. This is a concern, but remember your training includes learning to use protective barriers to minimize the risk of disease transmission. By using barriers, you're highly unlikely to get any disease or infection from someone you help. Second, focus on helping, not perfection. You want to do the best you can, but it's unlikely a minor error will make much difference, much less hurt or kill a patient. Focusing on perfection tends to make people hesitate in a real emergency. Do not hesitate. Help. Remember, adequate care provided is better than perfect care withheld. Third, learn to trust your training. During the scenarios, you'll find that what you think you forgot comes back when you provide aid. At first, things feel awkward. Then suddenly you've got it, like getting back on a bicycle after not riding one for years. Remember this feeling. You can trust it in a real emergency. Fourth, be decisive and act. Usually there's more than one right way to handle a situation. Circumstances don't always provide clear direction. Start helping immediately. To help you be decisive and act, Emergency First Response has developed an easy-to-use prompt to remind you of the important steps needed to assist someone in need. The Emergency Care at a Glance Decision Guide provides you with comprehensive primary and secondary care directions. This is a must-have addition to your first aid kit at home and on the road. Fifth, you may be concerned about your responsibility when helping another in need. You may hesitate because you're afraid of being sued. In general, the fear of being sued should not stop you from providing emergency care. Many countries have Good Samaritan laws which simply say that as a layperson helping another, you cannot be successfully sued if ultimately things don't work out well for the patient. Your training in this course will show you how to provide help within the protection of these laws. Good Samaritan laws will generally protect you if you provide care within the scope of your training as an emergency responder. Ask for permission to help. Act in good faith. Are not reckless or negligent. Act as a reasonably prudent person would. And don't abandon the patient once you begin care. The exception is if you must do so to protect yourself from imminent danger. Finally, don't worry about making a person worse. The most serious medical emergency is when a patient is unresponsive and isn't breathing normally. Sometimes people hesitate to help such a patient, fearing they'd make him worse. As an emergency responder, realize that you cannot make such a person worse. A person who is unresponsive and isn't breathing normally is already in the worst state of health.
Hey, I need some help here.
Again, remember you cannot make the person worse, but you may be able to help this person.
Call for help and bring an AED. Okay. He's not breathing.
You don't need to fear providing rescue breaths and chest compressions. You can trust your training. Take a moment to relax, think of your training, then step forward and help. CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, helps to oxygenate the body when the heart isn't beating. You do this because if CPR begins soon enough and if emergency care arrives quickly, then it may be possible to restart the patient's heart. CPR won't usually restart the patient's heart. Instead, it extends the period during which it may be possible to restart the heart.
Nice move.
Nice.
Take it.
Take that shot.
Take it. Todd.
Realize that
Richard.
CPR doesn't guarantee that the patient's heart will restart. In fact, most of the time, even with CPR, it doesn't restart. This means that you can never know whether providing CPR or any other aid that's called for would have made a difference unless you step forward and provide help. If you provide CPR and the patient's heart doesn't restart when medical care arrives, realize that you did everything humanly possible. But if you could have provided CPR and didn't, you may spend the rest of your life wondering whether it would have made a difference. Don't let that happen. Trust your training and help. Remember, adequate care provided is better than perfect care withheld.